and I assume that you're a rather intense fisherman by the looks of your walls.
Yeah, I spent 14 years hunting fossils up in the Green River Formation, and those are some of them.
Okay.
They're
Gotcha.
50-million-year-old fish, and a stingray.
Probably smells about the same, actually. I was gonna say, we've got fishermen in our backyard all the time. I don't know if he can.
Yeah, I love it. That is so cool. Where are you? Are you in? I was thinking you
Atlanta.
were in Georgia.
Atlanta.
Atlanta. Yeah. So you're in Atlanta.
People go, Atlanta doesn't look like that. Yeah, it's the lake on the north side of town. So we've had people pulling up 50, 60-pound striper and all that stuff here.
Wow. One of my best friends, one of my Kong sisters, she lives in Atlanta. And I told her, I said, I got Dr. Michael on, and I think he lives in Atlanta. I think he's right there. She's like, wow, really? I want to go, visit him and utilize him and whatever. So
yeah, tell her we're right off 400.
I think she's supposed to be in here listening in. So anyway, yeah, we're live today. We're on the Kong Family Show. We're going live over on the Kong Family page. And just so you know, Doc, it's called Kangen Water. It's not Kangen Water. It's Kangen Water. And I always say, how do you think that gorilla got so big? He's out there in the jungle drinking Kangen's water from the base of the waterfall. And so that's why I named it Kangen's Water, just like you named it Sky Water. And so, let's get right into it, brother. I always start these things out with the same question to all the guests, and that is how, when, and why did you decide to get involved with Kangen Water, and were you a skeptic like I was?
Yeah. I actually spent a lot of time opposing what you're talking about. Let me see. I just lost you. Where'd you go? Okay, there we are. Yeah, no, I've always researched water pretty extensively, which kind of perplexed me when I discovered Kangen Water, because I'd been through about 8 different machines. We were of the mindset of the clearest, in practice, that the cleanest water you could get was actually healthy, which we now know is absolutely not the truth. RO water, distilled water, all that stuff denatures proteins. It sucks the life out of your body, sucks the minerals out, the amino acids, the proteins, the salts, the good metals, all that stuff. And it ended up that what we ended up doing is our daughter was born with gastroschisis, and she'd been in the hospital for years. And I became very, very militant about finding out what to do with water, because she had suffered from what's called acute dehydration syndrome. This just feels weird right now. Oh, it's not on the block. I'm like, I feel like everybody's getting a really good view right up my nose. And and so what happened was, she was born with gastroschisis, so she was in the hospital for a year. And then when she came home, she had 100 hours a week of home health care. And the dehydration syndrome is literally, she had 100 hours a week to monitor her weight and her hydration. And that's how critical it was. And when if there became a problem, what would happen is, they're like, she's going into dehydration syndrome. You need to go straight to the hospital. Don't wait for an EMT. Don't wait for an ambulance. Get in the car, put on your flashers, call 911, say you need an escort to Scottish Rite. And you're like, with everything we've been through, that won't happen. I mean, that's like sprinkles on the frosting on the cake you never wanted to eat in the first place. And, it happened a handful of times. And so in the interim, we went through a lot of different water machines, and actually all my kids got sick from alkaline water ionized because people kept pitching them to me. And there was some research, and it was debatable, but I wasn't going to spend the money on that outrageously expensive one. And then, long story short, we had been through the battles, we'd been through it. I actually became a strong opponent of alkaline water because the plates were degrading. People were, my clients that had been using it had heavy metal toxicity and just all kind of crazy stuff. And then the lady comes in and one of my patients says, hey, try this water. And I'm like, whoa, no. She comes again, try the water. No. Let me explain to you, pH is irrelevant. It doesn't work the way you think it does. Da, 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 da. And I went down the list. And finally, she'd been a patient for like 6 weeks. And we had run some tests on Skylar and she was in failure to thrive. And she goes, well, she doesn't have to suffer because you're too stubborn to try the water. And I was like, my child is dying and you say that to me? And I was about ready to just light into her. And next thing you know, I just have that, just shut up, try the water, and go forward. And as we stepped into it, within 4 days, 80% of Skylar's symptoms had started to shift and had started to switch. And we were like, wait a second, this doesn't even add up. And that's when we kind of, in 10 days, she had her first solid bowel movement. The next thing you know, some of our patients had tried it. Their headaches were clearing up, some other stuff. The fibromyalgia was improving, and we're like, well, now that doesn't make any sense. How does that work? I mean, water is water, which it isn't. And as I dug into the research, that's when we discovered what electrolyzed reduced water is, and it's a very different thing. And a lot of you will see my videos on how I talk about electrolyzed reduced water and stuff, because there's a lot of research that's been done on that. There's some research. Horst is starting to get, Dr. Horst is starting to get some good research for Kangen, but there's a vast amount of research for the electrolyzed reduced water from every type of health condition. And so what I started to do, I really wasn't planning on building a business. I was just taking care of patients. And then I had chiropractors who were saying, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I said, yeah, one of the first things we did was we stopped taking insurance because the water sales had replaced what I was making in insurance. And that's a significant chunk of change. And they're like, well, how did you do it? And so we had research, we had emails, we invited people in, and that's actually how the doctor's manual got started. That's how I built my team. I don't really build teams. I help doctors educate patients on electrolyzed reduced water. And then most recently in the last 6 months, I've kind of felt like I really needed to help more chiropractors. So we created the platform that you and I talked about, and people can buy in, they can join in, and then they get the licensing, they get the research, they get the emails that I've actually used with my team for years. And we don't make outrageous claims. We're like, our goal is to try to help people make 2 sales a week out of their office. And then we ended up that, well, it wasn't just chiropractors that wanted it. We had naturopaths, and then we had general practitioners, and then we had med spas, and then and so it kind of became more healthcare provider oriented. And then really it delved into people that want the sciencey side of stuff, not the hype side of stuff. And, that's kind of where you came along and started asking more questions and whatnot. And so we decided to just help as many as we can, and we've opened it up to everybody, and we just have fun with it.
Man, I can't tell you how much I love that. There's too much of a problem, in my opinion, with doctors that don't understand health. All they understand is pharmaceuticals and that.
I'm actually seeing there's a really large shift. I mean, we used to be in like the 10 or 20% that thought that way. A lot of your medical doctors today, they've grown up with chiropractors, they've grown up with supplements, they've grown up with vitamins, and so now they're coming out of school going, why aren't we doing this? And that's why you're seeing a lot more of a holistic approach coming out, way more so than I did 20 years ago when I started practice, 25 years ago. And so today it's very much so people are very looking at what are all the places, what are all the pieces.
Yeah. There's a question that I have for you that I want to start with, because this is, in my opinion, this is one of the biggest issues that's out there. People keep calling this alkaline water when we understand, and actually the only reason I really understand this is because of you, brother. So I got to give you credit where credit is due. And
even Magic has changed the name now to Alkalized.
yeah, and there's a big thing out there. This is one of the big hurdles that we have to get over is that, oh, you can't drink alkaline water with your food and this and that and whatever. Can you
It was
kind of give
interesting
people
when,
a little rundown on the difference between
so,
alkaline water and alkalized water and
well,
electrolyzed
if you
reduced
want a
water?
funny story, it's actually a language barrier. I had somebody get upset because they thought I was being like a racial slur and talking in accents, but I was actually in Japan at a Magic talking with Mr. Fukuda, and he's like, no, it's alkaline water. I'm like, no, it's alkalized. He goes, yeah, alkaline, alkalized, alkaline. They actually didn't have a way to translate alkalized. It was a language barrier.
No. Okay.
And so the difference when you make something alkaline, you can take, what's the worst thing you could probably drink? A Red Bull. Really low pH, really acidic, bad for your heart, but you can put enough baking soda in that to make it alkaline. Doesn't make it any healthier. And so what happens is when you add minerals to a substance, you're making it alkaline. Now, you can also remove and strip away the acidic minerals and the acidic factors. That will increase the pH to make a shift. But historically, when you talk about alkaline water ionizers, you are talking about water that they are adding calcium, magnesium, or potassium to, and they hit it with an electric current. That is the legal clinical definition of an alkaline water ionizer. However, you have to add minerals, but when you ionize the minerals you've added in, they're generally going in like almost a powder form, or with the chalky type calcium, and then you ionize it. What you're actually doing is you're creating a health hazard. And any machine that says, hey, it's the minerals your body needs anyways, that's the second major problem with reverse osmosis machines. And we'll talk about that in a second. But when you deal with alkaline water ionizers, you're actually changing the pH through chemistry and hitting it with a current, making a highly ionized chemical compound. When you deal with alkalized water, it's technically because it's been electrolyzed. Alkalized is the combination of alkaline water that's done through electrolysis. You can actually put your cleaning cartridge in your Magic machine, push the button, and it's still going to spit out 9.5 water. It's really quite interesting how well it filters that, because it still dumps everything out the acid. 80 to 90% of the stuff still comes out the acid line, which I thought was fascinating. That's just proof positive of how strong the current is. So when you run water through an alkaline, the Kangen machine, you're filtering out, it's based on a municipal water supply. People are like, oh, their filters they make, accessory, triple filters, pre-filters. They have all that stuff if you want it. But your basic municipal water supply, the filter works fine because the rest comes out the acidic line anyhow. And when it does that, it breaks it apart, making hydrogen, oxygen, and hydroxide. Everybody's tripping out on molecular hydrogen these days. But what about all the other pieces of the puzzle? So when you break those water molecules apart, you end up with a shift in hydroxide to hydrogen that causes the pH shift. The pH is simply an indicator that the process has happened. Has nothing to do with water quality. And everybody's like, it's 9.5. It's like, no, it's small. The more pH, the higher the pH, the smaller the molecule clustering is. And microclustering isn't, and that's another whole story, isn't truly a term. There you go. It isn't really a term. It's a marketing term that describes a process. But but you're creating alkaline water through an electrical process, not adding chemicals. When you add chemicals, you stress out body chemistry, you stress out the digestive tract, you stress out the calcium buffering, you stress out respiration, you stress the kidneys, you stress the heart, you stress the cardiovascular system. Electrolyzed reduced water doesn't do any of that.
Yeah. And right at this point, I'd love to ask you to expand on something that I know I've gotten lots of questions about. You can't drink this with your food because it destroys the acidity in your stomach, so your body can't absorb and break down your food because you've destroyed your alkalinity or your acidity in your stomach.
Well, I would defer that question to Hiromi Shinya, who says this is the only water you should drink. And he's the guy that invented the endoscopy, the colonoscopy, the scope. He's the one that does all the digestive stuff. He's done 400,000 procedures. It's a requirement to be a patient of his. So I would start there. Secondarily, most people drink water when they eat because they're dehydrated. Anytime when you deal with digestive issues, you want to drink a 12-ounce glass of 9.5, throw in a pinch of like Himalayan salt 30 minutes before you eat, and then you'll barely drink anything. You're actually supposed to drink all through the day and not eat and not drink when you eat anyways. Whether it's water, milk, coffee, tea, Sprite, you don't want to go supersize it and get, a 32-ounce Mountain Dew because you're diluting all your stomach acids anyways. If you drink regular water when you eat, you're diluting your digestive enzymes. It's just how it works. When you pre-drink and hydrate the lining of your stomach and give it salt, you're giving it what it needs to produce hydrochloric acid to improve digestion. The problem is people drink a bunch when they eat, the body churns and spits it out because it's acidic, dumps a bunch of calcium bicarbonate into it to neutralize it, depletes the blones, depletes the blood calcium levels, and then the stomach is hydrated and releases a bunch of acid 30 minutes after you've eaten. Gives you heartburn. That make sense?
Well, actually, it kind of went over my head a little bit.
Okay, so if you're partially dehydrated, you can't produce hydrochloric acid to eat.
Okay.
It won't digest food. You need to drink the water 30 minutes before you eat so that your stomach is hydrated and can produce the hydrochloric acid to digest your food.
Okay.
If you drink anything when you eat, you're messing up the chemistry to digest your food properly. It has nothing to do with the alkaline water. You shouldn't drink soda. You shouldn't drink coffee. I live in Georgia. You shouldn't drink sweet tea because you should be hydrated enough to eat beforehand. That's the reality.
But
Yukon tea.
If you actually drink this water, because I'm curious, I'm asking this question a lot for myself, really, because I've been drinking this water with my meals since the very beginning.
Yeah.
And it, all I can say is I just feel better and better and better. And my poo is better and better and all that kind of stuff. So
Mr. O'Shea, it looked like banana. No, so technically, the more you drink while you eat, the more you're diluting your digestive enzymes. If you're properly hydrated, you shouldn't be thirsty when you eat. That's just science.
That's interesting. Now, I remember you did a video called Alkaline versus Alkalized Water.
Yep.
And you were talking in that video about the fact that your stomach is looking for chemicals where
alkalized water is electrically modified. So it's looking at the hydrogen, the oxygen, and the hydroxide. It's not neutralizing a chemical in the stomach. So alkaline water will mess up your digestion. Alkalized will not. Alkaline will build up in your tissue. Alkalized will not. Kangen water is pretty much neutral as soon as it's absorbed because your hydrogen and your hydroxide ions are being used immediately.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I've been trying to explain to people, is that your body's looking for chemicals, and we're not putting any chemicals in. This is just a lightning bolt in a box, as you called it.
Yep.
And I gotta tell you, I use that all the time. It's a lightning bolt in a box. My wife likes saying that it's a glacier on your countertop. And you know, so is there anything else that you would like to add before we shift gears and head into another part of this thing?
I mean that's technically the correct answer. I mean, it's, you want to make sure you've drank at least 30 minutes before you eat, so your stomach is hydrated. That will do more to improve your digestion than anything. If you drink a little bit of water while you eat, you're going to be fine. If you drink a 32-ounce soda, you're going to end up messing up your digestive tract. That's actually dangerous.
Here's something I want to ask you about. This is another one of my personal experiences. My sweetie, she's like the perfect epitome of the best way to a man's heart is through his stomach. Because she's an absolutely incredible cook. And one night she made me the most amazing meal, and I might as well have licked my plate clean. It was so good. And I was just completely stuffed. And she asked me if I wanted the rest of hers. I'm like, no, I'm completely stuffed. And then I proceeded to walk over to my K8 and guzzle down 28 ounces of 9.5. And I was kind of blown away that I was able to drink that much water on a completely full stomach, because I was stuffed. And then I guzzled that down, and I was like, wow, that's crazy, because it didn't even, can you maybe explain, do you have any idea? I'm sure you have an idea, and I'm hoping you can expand on that. Why in the heck was I able to guzzle down 28 ounces of?
Because you activated the mechanism to open up the digestion in the stomach. So basically you ruined your ability to digest your food. You forced it through before it had been broken down and emulsified and dumped into the intestinal tract, and it just got flushed through.
So I just had to go take a pee, and it didn't make any difference.
No, that's not what happened at all. Most people think when you drink water and it comes out, it's just going right straight through you. No, it's going in your digestive tract. It's absorbed into your cells. The blood is filtered through the kidneys, and the kidneys get rid of the waste product that's in there. But yeah, when you push that through, you inhibited your digestion because it didn't get a chance to churn up all the food and break it down as much as it should to make it ready to absorb.
Should I have seen some sort of side effects from that? Like
it all went, you would have had a higher percentage of waste material than you would have absorbed.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, when you look at it, you're like, hey, that worked great. I can overeat on a regular basis. No, it actually messes up your digestion, because now you've changed the pH to the point where your body responds to a certain pH in your digestive tract and says, open the sphincter of Odin so that it can go down through the intestinal tract, and it gets dumped into the small intestine, the jejunum and all that stuff, the duodenum, and then you dump all your pancreatic enzymes, and your liver does its work, and it goes through the process. But when you overate and then you drank all the water, you like flushed it through the system, and you lost the ability to digest it properly. Not because it neutralized the acid, but you just flushed it. It needed to stay in your stomach for 30 minutes to an hour.
Interesting, because
that's why it also helps with weight loss. That's one of the reasons that it does so well with weight loss, is because people are actually flushing their fluid through without breaking it down and digesting it, which makes you anemic and other things.
So doing that was actually a bad idea. It's not like I do that every day or anything like that. It was just that one particular time.
Yeah, no, it's a bad idea. I mean, if you're going to go eat a bunch of French fries, cakes, and stuff you shouldn't eat, yeah, flush that stuff out before it can take effect. But you're better off not to eat it.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting.
You know, and people look at that and they go like, well, that wasn't the answer. The reality is you shouldn't drink alcohol. It's not good for you. I love single malt scotches. I make ice cubes with 9.5 because Scotch and Tito's vodka, they'll actually go to a pH of about 8.5 when you add Kangen ice cubes to them and you do it on the ice. And it gets to your brain faster. So you become a cheaper drunk. But then again, you can also drink water, flush it out. The hydroxide neutralizes the alcohol in your brain. You don't get hangovers. You know, I'm not one of these people that you have to eat perfect. I eat really well 80% of the time. And the other 20%, I don't care. I do whatever I want. I'm really excited because today is Friday from 6:30 tonight till 6:30 on Sunday. I'll eat whatever I want. I'll drink whatever I want. I'll do whatever I want, and I won't even think about it. Why? I've eaten well since 6:30 on Sunday. It's going to try. So most of what I've done has been good for me. I've done intermittent fasting. I've had my green drinks. I've taken my nutrition. I take ketones. I drink Ukon tea. You know, we'll have people over, and I'll have single malt scotch tonight. I don't have it every night.
I love that. Now, this is something I'm curious about, though, when it comes to this whole thing of having a full stomach.
Tara, why are you wagging your finger at me?
Whose finger? Oh.
You're muted, girl.
You got to unmute.
Rodgar's flag showing his bacon like he eats every morning. He doesn't fast.
He probably thinks it's ketogenic
Steve,
too.
did you see his bacon?
Not every morning.
He probably thinks it's ketogenic and it's not. It's not a high quality fat. I love bacon, I'm just saying. It's better than having toast though.
So here's one last thing I'd like to ask you, Doc, about the whole managing to drink 28 ounces of water on a full stomach. I don't think I could have done that if I was just drinking regular water.
You wouldn't have. You'd have gotten really bloated and sick.
Yeah. And
you actually managed your gluttony from overeating. It was therapeutic.
I love it. All right, so let's move into another subject. Unless anybody has any questions about what we've already discussed here, what the docs talked about. Anybody have any questions they want to throw out there for him to answer while we're on the subject of alkaline and alkalized water?
Yeah, I will.
Oh, go ahead.
Did I hear it right that toast was worse than bacon?
Yeah.
Why is that?
The human body.
And I want to.
Oh, hang on, Wes.
I got to attest to the fact that I'm not a cheap drunk. I'm a less expensive drunk. Thank you.
I'm not politically correct on any level, so my wife will tell you that if you're in ketosis and you can drink, there's two or three different alcohols that if you drink them, it actually improves your ketosis.
Learn something new every day, right?
Yeah, no. So the human body isn't designed to break down grains. If you look to talk about your toast question, which is why we do so much, we use the therapeutic ketones. We drink the water, the Ocon, all that stuff. If you were to go, I'm in Georgia and it's 90 degrees out, whatever, 100% humidity. You go cut the grass, and then you roll around in the grass naked for 24 hours. You're going to be all itchy, scratchy, eyes watering, nose, just miserable. Because it's grass. But then people think, oh, what eats grass? Cows, horses, goats. They're called ruminants, and they actually have, cows have multiple stomachs. Horses actually throw up in their mouth and chew it down again, throw up, chew it down again, throw up, chew it down again. to break down the husks for grasses. That's how they can digest that. So what we do is we take all the grass clippings, rake them up, grind them up into a powder, and then put them into our body for 24 hours at 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and wonder why we have all kinds of digestive issues. You're not designed to eat that. So that's why bacon is better than bread. Whenever your body has excess level of calories, it stores it as fat. When you go into a starvation mode, the first thing your body does is it mobilizes stored fats, fatty acids, dumps them into your liver, the liver converts those into ketones, that dumps it into the bloodstream to give you, literally, they're finding that ketones are the 4th macronutrient. So carbs give you about 3 kilocalories, proteins are about 4, fats are about 9, and ketones are about 14.
So what do you think about the intermediate fasting?
Intermittent fasting, I do it every day.
Yeah. Oh, you did?
I only eat from 12 to 6 during the day. Now that I do most weekends, but I'm just less strict of what I eat. But Sunday mornings is kind of family breakfast: bacon, eggs, sausages, biscuits, juice, coffee, berries, grapes, pancakes, waffles. Everybody just eats themselves into gluttony and then drinks too much water to flush it through, and away we go.
That's funny. So where are you located? I live in Buckhead.
Oh, I'm right up in Gainesville, right up off 400. I'm 13 minutes from the outlets, and I am 27 minutes from Lenox.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll hook up with you, and because I don't have a chiropractor in this area, I have to go all the way to Fayetteville, and I really don't like going down there. If you have openings.
Bruce Salzing is on Far Road, and he's great, and he's 10 minutes from you.
Okay, what's his name?
Bruce Salzinger, Salzinger. Tell him Dr. Michael sent you.
Oh, okay, awesome.
You got to go make sure you go over to Dr. Michael, though, and give him a hug for me.
Make sure a big one.
Yeah, big.
Oh, can we?
He really likes me now. I said bacon's good for you. No, bacon's not really a high quality fat, but it's better than the grains and pastas are really what's an issue. You're going to realize that, for instance, in Georgia, you get blackberries and strawberries and blueberries in like May, June. Then you hit your veggies July, August, maybe a little bit of September, but then you hit your starches in September, October, a little bit of November, and then November, December, January, February, March, April, back into May, almost 7 months. About the only thing to eat is either, pine trees or venison, turkey, squirrel, proteins. And so your body should be in ketosis about 7 months a year to be healthy in the Georgia area. Up north, it's a little bit longer. So.
Man, that's interesting stuff.
Yeah, when
That is, what about
the blood type diets, you realize that your protein levels versus your carbs versus your starches, there's a real fine balance. Your body's designed to metabolize stored fats. So high quality fats is why you have a gallbladder, and your liver breaks that stuff down because it gives you the most ketones. So you should be slightly alkaline and ketogenic.
What about Ezekiel bread?
Yeah, I get that it's alive, but as soon as you cook it, it's not. It does have more active enzymes.
All right. I mean, because it does have.
It's better than other stuff, but
yeah,
you're better off not to eat it.
Gotcha.
Like your almond flours are good because they're nuts and seeds. They're a better protein source.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, back to water.
So yeah, there's something that I've been wanting to talk to you about since the day that I had Bob Wright on the show, and you came in as a surprise guest and introduced us to Skylar for a second. That was pretty cool. You were talking about the Anespa,
Yep.
and how it is something that's really crucial, especially in places that have chlorine in their water, and that it is especially good for the thyroid or something like that. I didn't quite catch everything that you were talking about.
So you have, and right now we've, the Anespa is a huge deal. When we sell trifectas to our clients because you're 72% water. If I'm the best chiropractor in the world and the best nutrition, the best green products and the best supplements and, you know, the adjustments and pulse electromagnetics and lasers and foot baths and detox and all the stuff that we do deals with the 28% that's not water. So the two most common aspects of water are drinking it and soaking in it. The problem is if you get in a hot tub that's got chlorine in it, every 10 minutes, you're absorbing the equivalent of a quart of that water through your skin. Now, they've proven in Japan that their hot springs, their mineral contents are extremely healthy, highly beneficial, and they're intensely regulated by the Ministry of Health in Japan. The best role model for hot springs in Japan is in Hokkaido. They have the highest level of minerals across the board. They're the industry standard for hot springs in all of Asia, but Japan specifically. And Mr. Oshira bought the mineral rights from the Futamata hot springs and actually puts it in the shower unit. Those minerals actually rebuild the body from the inside out, rebuild the skin. They're absorbed through the skin. So what makes his filter different than like the chlorine filter at like you get at Home Depot? One, take chlorine drops and go, there's still chlorine in it. Yeah, you can't have water pressure and have a small filter and get it all. But more importantly, it illuminates all of your halogens, your fluorides, your chlorines, your bromines, your all those things are halogens that compete in the thyroid for iodine uptake. And once the iodine uptake is inhibited in your thyroid, that lowers your immune system, lowers your metabolism, and across the board. It also eliminates trihalomethanes, which are all your outgassings from things like people that are on wells and all the different things that are dumped into our water supply. And so if you're soaking in those chemicals every day by taking a shower for 10 minutes, you just drank a quart of that water and absorbed the chlorine. So you're drinking good water, but then poisoning yourself while you bathe.
Interesting. So
I actually have an extra Anespa filter that I put in my hot tub. We just started a new company that we're literally just launched called Ion Clear Technologies because everybody's been asking me for, hey, do you have a whole house system? Do you have a whole, I mean, I'm sure you guys get the same question. Do you have a whole house system? Well, I have searched the globe and I finally have a whole house system that'll restructure water and create ionization. It's not electrolyzed reduced, but man, when the water has come in now, goes into my magic machine, my ORP is like 900. It's incredible. And we put it in our pools, and then we've got the light bulbs for creating the negative ions that kill corona and all that stuff. So that's one of our new companies.
you know, at the very end of this, Doc, I always like to give everybody the opportunity to give out all their information so people can hook up with them.
Yeah.
And so that's at the end, I'd love you to give out all of whatever information you want to give out. I always tell them, you give them all you want or nothing or whatever. It's up to you. But yeah, I'd love to know everything that you're doing and how people can tune into it and participate in it and be part of what you're doing, because I think what you're doing is incredibly special. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to share it with people here today. There's another, first off, before we move into this next subject, does anybody have a question about the Anespa and what Dr. Michael just talked about in that regard? Okay, so nobody does. I want to move on to the next aspect, and that is 5G. I would love it if you would be able to, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are concerned about 5G. There's a lot of people who are not concerned about it. And I think those people, they just don't understand what it is that's being perpetrated against them. And I'm wondering if maybe you could give us, I know that you've got some things that I think what you're wearing around your neck right there is some sort of a 5G inhibitor or something like that. And
It's actually an EMF. Yeah. I've suffered from electromagnetic stress disorder for 20 years. When the first 900 megahertz portable phones came out, my neighbor's phone would ring and I would drop to the ground in pain. And I had EMS sensitivities before it was cool. So I've actually worn 4 Q-links for 15 years. There's a Dr. Michael Explains 5G. If you go to Dr. Michael Explains page and search Q-link or EMF, there's a whole section on it. 5G is here to stay. In some regards, it's as bad as everybody says it is. In other regards, it's nowhere near as bad as anybody else says it is. I have several people that put up cell towers. 5G is ultra high speed shortwave. So for instance, if you use the router in your house and you want to go really, really fast, there's like that 5 gigahertz logon. But if you're on the other side of the house, you have to log into the 2G because the 5G ain't going anywhere. Like in my office, I'm hooked up. I'm 876 baud right here. But I can't get it in my bedroom. Now, admit it, I have a huge house. But even when I use the boosters, it doesn't go that high. So 5G is extremely high frequency, lots of information, lots of data, but it's not going to go through a wall. That's why you're like, I need a booster in my house. My signal's always, yeah. The problem with 5G is the hertz on it are very similar from the periodic table of what's known as for iron, like metal. And so because it's highly receptive, the thing is your body uses bioavailable iron known as hemoglobin to transport oxygen. So there is some legitimate concern that it's going to affect the oxygen uptake to tissues. I haven't found current clinical research, but I do know for a fact that the EMF sensitivities of the people in my clients has definitely increased with 5G. That's not saying it's a bad thing. It's just, it's a thing. With our other company, one of the things that we're doing is we're creating a Faraday cage that will retrofit into your house if you're as sensitive to EMF as I am. That's why I moved to the lake. I don't have any, I have neighbors. I have one neighbor over there and one neighbor over there. So I have 270 degrees with no neighbors, no people, no Wi-Fi's, no cell phones. People's Wi-Fi networks would bother me when I lived in a subdivision. Our guest house is a barrier between us and anybody else. So we've got 100 yards before we run into anybody else's signals and Wi-Fi's, and then it's all lake space. We did that predominantly because I'm electromagnetic sensitive. Am I worried about the future of the world because of 5G? No. In less than 2 years, they're going to launch 6G and 7G and 8G and 9G and 10G. My iPhone 11 is got the 12 coming out. I mean, it's technology advances. And so in this company and what we did when we found the water and we found the air stuff is we want to create bioenergetic homes that are safe, that kind of restabilize the environment. And 5G is a big one. And so what we'll end up doing is when you have an Ion Clear Tech home, you're actually, all your routering work will be on the outside of the house. So it won't be like blasting through you, but then you'll have the way that it's wired up so that you can use a pod or a plug-in and have Wi-Fi there without it having to be blasting through your whole house. We've got generators that pull, 5G is one thing, but most people don't realize how much sensitivity, because they've got all these wires running through their house. It's a giant antenna. And so, those are all aspects. There's a doc, let me see if I can find the thing here. Do I have a comment section? I do. I have a chat. So I will do this.
If you want to share screen or anything like that, you can do that as well.
I am going to go. Just going to copy paste this. Command copy. I'll put this in the chat. It's a link to my 5G info. The dangers of 5G, how we protect our phone. All my kids wear Q-links. I have little gauze generators to balance the EMF in the house. The negative ions is another big issue. And like our water supply as a whole, it has a very low Bovis number, it's a quantum study number, which is the amount of life energy within the water itself or within the air itself. So when they talk about like being next to a raging waterfall, lots of negative ions being given off. You go out and there's an electric storm, lots of negative ions. When you drink water that's been run through a Kangen machine, when they break apart the molecules, it releases a lot of negative ions. And so those are the things that are actually rebuilding the body. They affect negative bacteria, viruses. That's why it works on things like corona and COVID and pneumonia and strep and Ebola and all that stuff. It's killing because those generally have a positive charge. And when you overwhelm them with the negative ions, it has a sterilizing effect.
Very interesting. So one thing I've heard about the whole 5G thing has to do with 60 gigahertz.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently 60 gigahertz is it's the crowd disbursement.
You're getting into microwave technology, and I don't really, there's a lot of conspiracy theories and what it's capable of and what it's not capable of and all that stuff. I do know that the frequency modulates really close to metabolic iron and hemoglobin, which has been some of the cause for concern. As far as programming people, and everybody's on Facebook, they're pre-programmed anyways. It's like, there's a lot of agendas. It's here to stay. You're going to use the technology. You just need to find a way to live with it.
Yeah, and that's kind of what my thought process was on it, is that there's no way we're getting rid of it. So what do we do to protect ourselves, to help ourselves? And obviously drinking the water is the most important thing, but
that maintains your health factor. And that's whether you're dealing with 5G, COVID, you got the flu in your house, cancer, diabetes, Alzheimer's. You have to rebuild the body from the inside out. And you're 72% water, so you have to start there. And then you build up from there. What's the best way that your body gets nutrients? Well, we eat right for our blood type. Well, what's the best source of food? That's where you get your ketones. What's the biggest anti-inflammatory? And so you get all these things and you put these pieces in place, and you're just naturally stronger in that survival of the fittest.
That makes sense. I know Brian Parker, he just put a thing into the chat. He said, people fear 60 gigahertz from 5G, but I've found that only one of the 24 channels of 5G operates with 60 gigahertz.
I would believe that.
I know that a lot of this just goes right over my brain cell.
Yeah, people think, honestly, shortwave radios, that's really old tech, is extremely detrimental because you can bounce it off the ionosphere and reach the other side of the world. 5G has what, a 3-mile radius? Your 3G had 7.5 miles.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. From what I've heard, mostly the big concern with the people that are raising concerns about this is the ability to direct it and have it go like directly, at that, and this is why I'm glad to have you here, because I want to get this stuff straight. If it's something we need to worry about, then we need to worry about it. If it's something we don't need to worry about, then what the heck are we doing worrying about it? and that is, do they actually have the ability to like direct it and use it like as a directed energy weapon to, shut off your freaking blood supply or your oxygen to your body and have you go on the ground, that kind of thing.
No, it's not microwave technology. They have microwave technology. It's not 5G antennas. You're looking at data transmission that can create an overload. Being directional means it intensifies the signal where it's aimed, so you have better reception, but you got to be close. You got to realize, like I said, the old-fashioned ham radio operators that do short wave reaches the moon.
Okay. Well, that's good. I like hearing that because it's,
and people want to get in and, there's things that to worry about, and then there's things that you can fight, and then there's things that you adapt. People that adapt the fastest survive, thrive, and become the most successful. We live in a world where 5G is just going to be a reality. And then there'll be 6G. And then there'll be 7G. It's just a reality. Our processes are getting fast. When people talk about global warming and this and that and the other, global warming is an issue, but not for anything that we can do anything about. If you look at what's been going on with the sun for the last decade, you'll go, oh, wow, look at all those sunspots. That's what's causing the fracking issues around the plate tectonics to create more earthquakes, which creates geopathic stress, which stresses human beings. Oh, can you fix the sun? Not that I'm aware of. But, they're still having the same problems with global warming and plate tectonic issues on Mars. It has nothing to do with fluorocarbons. Plastics are horrible. Why? They're bad for the planet. They don't degrade.
Right.
That's a real issue. That's not a global warming issue.
Right.
We're trashing the planet because we're slobs.
Right. Which makes Kangen water all the more important. But,
Agreed.
So does anybody, before we move on to the last little part of this meeting today, does anybody have any other questions in regards to 5G or electromagnetic frequencies or any of that kind of stuff for Dr. Michael?
I got a question, if I may. I mean, my son's school, I think, implemented that. It's like I read somewhere like during this whole thing in April and May when schools were shut down, they were getting up on installing all that stuff. And I guess in terms of the adjustment or the adaptability, is there any type of thing that he can wear or anything to kind of just inhibit it?
That's the Q link that I put in the chat.
Oh.
And I'll go back into the Kangen water and I'll put, when it's done, I'll just put the links to all the stuff that we use, our websites, the Q links, all that stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I really want to be mindful of that, I want to be able to put him in the most optimal position to be healthy without worrying about, the altered effects of this other stuff. Obviously we got masks to contemplate, and that's something I'm not too excited about, making him go to school and wear a mask all day, but they're still sorting it all out. So
yeah, you're mitigating and running a fear factor on that.
I'm glad you brought that up, Sean. What is your thought process on these masks, Doc?
Dr. Michael? Yeah. Go ahead. Will you elaborate on that a little bit?
I've got to realize what I can and can't say because I'm privy to additional information. There's 3 areas of the country right now that actually have a dangerous strain of COVID. The rest of it has mitigated because they naturally change and mutate. What was out in March and April is pretty much gone by the wayside. It's mutated itself into just a regular flu version. There's 3 areas that within the US itself that still have a major issue with it. It is a global pandemic fear that has some legit basis. Me, not concerned about it at all. Not worried about it for my friends, not worried about it for my family, Not worried about it for my kids. They're going to get a COVID. They're going to get a cold. They're going to feel better because everybody in my sphere takes care of themselves. I'm totally opposed quarantining. Quarantining is for sick people. House arrest is for people that you want to lock up. That would be more geopolitical than anything. I'll tell you right now that with my friends in Malaysia, if they go for a walk in a park without a mask, it's a $300 fine. For my friends in Australia, if they get a COVID positive test, the police will show up at their home, and if they're not there, it's a $2,000 fine. I think that is tyranny. As far as the legitimacy of a mask, it's not going to stop COVID. Will it stop some water droplets? Yes. If you look at the little ear masks, the little blue masks that they have everybody wearing, anybody here have them? How long have you had that mask? Terry, how long?
You're muted.
We have to throw them out every day.
No, those masks are designed for a surgical room that is an already sterile environment and must be replaced every 45 minutes in a surgical environment.
We wear them all day. We're only allowed one mask, maybe two.
And where are you working at?
A podiatry.
You're supposed to change those out no more than every hour. After you've been breathing in one for an hour, there's so much bacteria and contaminants, it's actually a health hazard, which is why OSHA sets the standards of how long you're allowed to wear them.
Yeah.
When you wear a cloth mask, that's kind of like, it's for people when they cough. Like, cover your mouth, people. Like,
old school discretion.
Like, you should be like hey, can I have, nobody goes shopping like that. And so
John does.
And then, so you're trying to control and manipulate the masses because people are stupid. And they're negating the facts of the research. There's a couple of websites that you can go to, BitChute, B-I-T, it looks like BitChute. But they've got a lot of information that's like, here's what the doctors are actually saying. Like, they're banning on social media all the doctors that are not promoting the narrative. Why? Because it's brainwashing. We're not supporting the narrative. I don't support the narrative at all. I mean, we have a mask, but then again, I don't leave. I mean, my life is, they deliver to me. I don't go anywhere. I'm a hermit. I'm an introvert. I like my life. My life is, I go to the lake, I go to the bay. It hasn't had any bearing on us. We have 6 families that we're really close with. They're at home or here on the weekends. I'm completely oblivious to what's been going on in the real world other than what I've read in the research and talking to the CDC. And they're asking me about contamination and sterilization. And our ionization company right now we're getting the lab tests to prove so we can get the FDA certification. It kills COVID. 20 minutes. You can fill your house with it. We've got lights. We've got units for your AC, plug-ins. So, I mean, I'm tied into all the reality of it. We'll be in hospitals and schools and restaurants and planes. And so you can do all that stuff. But the reality is when I went out in public, I just went out in public. My mom is a severe asthmatic at 84 years old. She goes to the grocery store every day. She's not going to wear a mask because as an asthmatic, you can't wear a mask. If you wear a mask, you're already decreasing your oxygen and then it's decreased even more. So you get a 17% reduction in oxygen when you wear a mask. So you're actually trying to make people more sick and then you're putting more bacteria in front of their face. Well, you just need
They're more vulnerable.
You need to respect your fellow man. No, if my fellow man is at risk, he needs to quarantine himself.
Yeah.
More people are going to die from suicide from the economic loss than we will lose in COVID.
Yeah.
Amen. Hey, I got a quick question for you on just kind of a country style hack on the whole mask every hour thing or whatever. This might sound kind of country, but they give you those blue masks, you know, and I'll put them on and I'll chin strap it. And I mean, I'm a hard-headed dude when it comes to that stuff. And then they'll make you put it on. I'll put it on up to my nose and blah, blah, blah. So the point is, I use that cloth mask only when necessary. But I've had mine for like 2 weeks. And again, I don't put it on very frequently, but I've been throwing this on it. I spray the piss out of the 2.5 on the mask, let it dry, and use it again. Is that absurd?
All the new Dr. Michael explained videos when you're in when you have the new platform and you get the new videos, we show actual sterilization effects of our 2.5 and what it does. There's no claim, there's no conversation. It's just like, here's the facts. You know, like I said, there's areas where COVID is really a threat and a danger. If you live there, fall in line. Global pandemic hysteria to build people because they have a common cold. Because you see the COVID test, they used to delineate really, really well, but now the antibodies, once you've had a cold this year, you have the antibodies for, I mean, it's like, unless you get a really deep nasal passage swab test where you'll actually feel it up behind your eyeballs, not like, I just picked my nose. Do I have it? No, this thing is like most of the pen is going to go up your nose. If they're not buried that deep, you didn't get COVID tested. That's just a fact. And then they're charging people $2,000 for leaving their homes in Australia.
Good God.
It's interesting stuff, Doc. I'd love to get your take on what Dr. Andrew Kaufman has to say about all this stuff. He's put out a whole bunch of stuff. He actually lost his contract because he wouldn't wear a mask. And
I haven't really watched it. I don't do much of anything that's just social media driven that you can find online. I'm a boots on the ground kind of guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like when I talk to people about Wuhan, it's because I have business partners in Wuhan. And the stuff that's actually gone on there will never make it on media.
Right. I know a lot of the stuff that Dr. Kaufman's put out has gotten deleted or censored or whatever, you know, so, but he's a lot like you. He, you know, without the humor.
Yeah, I get it.
Pretty
And,
much
like the other day, I had to go to Home Depot. They're like, we won't let you in unless you have it. Well, I needed to go to Home Depot. So I put it on, I wore it, and I went through, and I left. Why? If you come into my house, you're going to play by my rules.
Right.
Home Depot's rules, they don't really care. They just don't want someone to sue them because they thought somebody gave them COVID from their store. You know, they've shut down all sporting events because they're worried that people are going to get COVID. And I'm like, dude, those guys are drinking so much beer, they probably sterilized themselves anyways.
Right.
You know, like, I've dipped in alcohol, man. I'm cool.
Hey, and I watched the game last night, the Mets and the Red Sox, and apart from the cardboard cutouts and the piped-in crowd noise, I learned the announcer said that they actually quarantined the baseballs for 5 days before they used them. What's the, does that even make sense? I have a hard time thinking this needs moisture, this needs, you know, something
here's
to
the
transmit it.
reality. Do we have a homeless problem in this country?
Very much so.
Why aren't they all dead?
I've always asked that thing.
You know, if you grew up, you know, if you've got worm guts on your hand and you've rinsed it off in the stream before you ate your sandwich, you're probably immune.
Yeah.
That's the, I mean, most people, the problem is people get and I can't really go there. They've compromised their immune system so much with vaccines that they've lost the ability to adapt.
Ooh.
So those are the people that are very high risk, actually, right now.
Right.
And the more you do to build your immune system, you know, when I grew up, my cousins got chicken pox. You know who I spent the next 3 days playing with? My
Your
mom.
chicken
It's like be
pox.
child abuse today. It's like, go get it. You'll be
Right.
safe forever. And you know what? You're safe forever.
Yeah.
But if you get the chickenpox vaccine, you need a booster every 2 years. Well, it either works or it doesn't.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's man playing God versus our God-given, how we were created to adjust and adapt, like you were saying. It's crazy.
I mean, my kids' school masks are optional. They won't have masks. Why? Because I'm not going to subject my kids to 17% oxygen deprivation all day.
Wow.
Yeah, I think that's the big part that people don't grasp about that is not only the oxygen deprivation, but the fact that they don't really have the ability to stop a virus anyway. And so that's kind of the insanity of it all, in my opinion. But so Doc, what a great conversation. Does anybody else have any questions that they'd like to throw at the Doc while we got him here today? And if not, I would like to give you an opportunity to share whatever.
I want to thank Dr. Michael from the Pacific Northwest, JJ.
Where are you at, Paul?
I live in Cedro-Woolley, Washington, about 70 miles north of Seattle, about 60 miles from the office.
Oh, wow. Yeah, all those tree huggers have taken really good care of Seattle, haven't they?
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Yes, buddy. Yes, buddy. And I'm an ex-tree guy.
They call him the Kangen tree topper because he climbs trees and tops them off.
Yeah, it's a different world. You're going to see where there's going to be required COVID testing because that's the narrative. You're going to see required masks. Why? That's the narrative. It is a control issue. I'd like to see there's so much manipulation of data. And I have a dear friend that does a phenomenal job. She runs a lab that does like 1,500 tests a day for results. And now colleges and schools are going back up. And she's covered up, and her biggest frustration is the bogus stuff. Like they have to test it. Like if we could actually test people, you have a virus that's so dangerous, you have to be tested to see if you have it, so that somebody else may not get sick. Well,
Yeah.
There's legit issues with real people with real problems that are really at risk. And you're now sacrificing them for the greater good of everybody who's not at risk. There needs to be some common sense. The problem is the common sense has gone out the window for political control. And that's just another whole nightmare.
Hey, you remember the movie Idiocracy with Luke Wilson? It came out about 20 years ago. I could never watch it.
I'm not that old.
No, right. It came out and I've never been able to watch it. It was supposed to be a comedy, but I've always been annoyed absolutely by it because it was more of a modern day documentary of today's society than it was a comedy.
Wag dog, all that stuff.
Yeah. I mean, it's just absurd. And it's playing out right now. Just the brainwashed masses just running around, regurgitating the same talking head media speak they see every day. And it's just crazy.
I'm a little bit more, I have 5 kids. I have 4 girls. The thing I think that disheartens me more than anything right now is, honestly, the human trafficking side of things, the Epstein stuff, and how rampant it is with perceived people in power, with leadership and people of influence, whether it's Hollywood, whether it's Washington, D.C., whether it's government leaders. It's
the
very
real
disturbing,
epidemic.
the level of issues that it has.
And gets no media coverage at all. We get riots and we get all these looters and all this stuff, and The orange
That's
man's
all
bad.
wag. That is 100% wag the dog stuff.
No, totally. Totally. No,
Any
I'm
which
with
way.
you on that.
Other questions?
So Doc, I think we're about ready to wrap this baby up, and I just wanted to give you an opportunity to give people whatever information, because this is being recorded and it's going to go up on our YouTube channel so that people can listen to it and they can get whatever information, because I know you've got some really special stuff going on right now.
Yeah. So who here really enjoys the science side of the water? Who here is in healthcare? Anybody?
Both of us.
So when I put together the doctor's manual, it was, you know, we marketed to chiropractors, we talked to doctors, and I would literally, we had what's called our self-funded charity, which is single moms and disabled vets. And what we did is we said, here's how to go market to a healthcare provider, to build a practice, to build it up so they can start educating people and start making sales. That starts with clinical research. And from the clinical research, it had to be put in a way that was understandable for the average person. So for instance, everybody's heard the concept that, you know, Otto Warburg said that no disease can exist in an alkaline environment. That's 100% false. He never made that statement. He never studied pH. He studied cellular respiration. So, but people make these statements like, well, if you have cancer, you need to drink the water because cancer can't exist in an alkaline environment. That's not true. It absolutely can. The science side of it will say to you, and I'm a Georgia boy, I shoot my guns, my kids all shoot. I used to build rifles for the military. Every single sniper in the military is a great shot. I am a great shot. I'm not a sniper. I've trained snipers because I'm a great shot, but I'm not a sniper. Do you see the difference?
Yeah.
All electrolyzed reduced water creates an alkaline environment. Not all alkaline environments are electrically reduced.
Giddy up, baking soda.
And so that's the difference. They're hung up on the pH. What Otto Warburg's work was, if you reduce the mitochondrial activity of oxygen by 38% for 48 hours, the mitochondria can't produce enough energy in the Krebs cycle, so it shuts down and it burns sugars. Well, in order to reactivate the mitochondria, you have to saturate the tissues with oxygen. You have to increase the membrane with hydrogen and then give it an electric charge to kind of get the heartbeat going again. So when you're drinking electrolyzed reduced water, you have hydrogen, you have oxygen, you have ORP. That reactivates the mitochondria to produce energy. The energy loss is, we'll just say that if you do it right, you produce 36 gallons of energy. If it doesn't work and you shut the system down, you get 4 gallons of energy by burning sugars. So when you can reactivate the system, you get 36 gallons. You get 900% more energy in the system when it works right. That's what Otto Warburg worked. That's what he discussed. I've created a platform that allows healthcare providers to be able to communicate that accurately. Here's the clinical research. Here's the statement. Here's the video. Here's Dr. Michael explains the water. Here's the Anespa. Here's the Ukon. Here's how you want to talk to people. Here's what to say. Here's how to give them water. Here's what not to say. Oh, wow, I can license these videos now and use Dr. Michael's stuff on my page. I normally charge 10 grand for this. We've dropped the price down. In September, it'll be $1,000. Pre-sale right now is $497. And you get everything. You get the research, you get the emails, you get the manual, you get the license, you get it all. And we're also throwing in a 25-minute phone call. We're not advertising that because I may not want to talk to you, but generally everybody, being honest, I may go wakeboard. And anybody who watches, follows me on social media, we wakeboard a lot. But we're giving that to people. Now, if you guys buy it, I'm obviously, because I have the cats out of the basket, I'm going to have to like call everybody here. But you know, we want to help people, educate more people on the benefits of electrolyzed reduced water, because the health of our world, actually, it was more of a pandemic thing. Whereas I just dealt with chiropractors and stayed in my lane and did my own thing and didn't really do much else. But, you know, with the healthcare crisis, with COVID, with health, with wellness, we have a way to sterilize the environment. So we have a good way to kill everything that's detrimental to us, because, and people go, well, doesn't it kill everything? No, there's something that's called gram positive. And you, Tara, probably are aware that it kills gram positive stuff, which is all the bad bacteria, viruses, and bugs anyways. The gram negatives are the ones that you want in the body, and you're actually promoting their growth. Again, that's part of the science pack. So that is at www.thedoctorsmanual.com. And let me put that in the chat actually here. If you want to get in there.
Does everything start at a mitochondrial level?
Well, all your energy starts at a mitochondrial level.
Okay.
So for instance, why does electrolyzed reduced water help diabetes? I don't know, but it makes it better. Well, a diabetic, well, what's the problem? They have an insulin uptake issue. Why do they have an insulin uptake issue? Well, it's insulin resistant. What makes the tissues insulin resistant? They ate sugar? No. Once you reach a certain acidity level, the glucagon stuck in the cell and the metabolic waste needs to be flushed out for the insulin to go in. It has nothing to do with hydrogen. It has nothing to do with oxygen.
Right.
It's a hydroxide ion that flushes the toxins, that makes the tissues less insulin resistant, that allows the insulin to do its job. You know, we've got a protocol for diabetics where we can literally, we work with their endocrinologist, and they can make, between the water, taking therapeutic ketones, working on eating right ketogenically according to their blood, they can literally manage their insulin levels right back to normal, especially if they're type 2. Type 1, they've never produced insulin, but they can still use upwards of, you know, we've got people that are using 40, 50, 60, 70% less insulin that are type 1 diabetics. But here's the science. Here's the clinical research. Oh, you just, Dr. Michael said you drink Kangen water, you don't need insulin. I didn't say that. Oh, I never said that. I said that there's a method and those are the things that we incorporate into our manual. So you get the research, you get the videos. We've just added up more new videos. If you want to see the Anespa video, you got to buy the packet, because that gives you all the information on how the Anespa works. Here's the clinical research. Here's the data. Here's the information. Here's the XYZ. Same thing with the new water demos. The 2015 was like a basic. The new one now, we've got all the clinical research. It's all about electrolyzed reduced water, how it works, why it works, what it works. There's also scripting for talk to people. There's how to make phone calls. So you're really, like I said, it's a $10,000 package. And since we're still building the platform, it's $497. It'll go to $997, and then you can upgrade and buy coaching calls. And if you need me to talk to your doctors or do a webinar or whatever, you can buy in and do all that stuff. Other than that, you know, we've got our whole house filtration systems that produce restructured ion water. No, it is not electrically reduced.
We lost you during the Anespa part on the thyroid because you guys were cutting out, and we lost you in the networking.
So just go buy the package and you'll get to see the whole thing. No,
Oh, perfect.
I did it on purpose. I was like,
Oh,
thinking
okay.
that I can't move.
Well, I have a thyroid problem. That was part of
Yeah.
the reason we got on today. And so
He's gonna have the replay, I think, in the Kong group, aren't you?
Yeah.
but I don't know, because if it was live, if it'll cut back out again. Will it do that, JJ?
No, it actually didn't. It didn't cut out.
It was you. It was you. Just own up to it, Tara. It was you.
Operator error.
I have one more question. Do you know anything on fibromyalgia's mitochondria at a fibromyalgia level?
Yeah.
It is. Because
So,
I've tried to do more research and do a type A diet.
so when we deal with fibromyalgia people, they generally, this is not related, but it makes it relatable. Does it make sense? If you go to the gym and you work out a lot, really, really hard, you feel great. Except you can't move the next day because you got all this lactic acid and you're just sore. You can't move. So you've got a buildup of toxicity in the cells that makes you very, very sore. So when you have a toxic buildup burden in the tissues, that's going to be one form of fibromyalgia. The other aspect of it is the neurology side of it. Well, if you, against the research packet, from a neurological standpoint, electrolyzed reduced water is neuroprotective of the nervous system and rebuilds, works with strokes, cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's. I mean, there's just a whole list of stuff that it works with because the hydrogen helps to regenerate part of the nerve tissues. The oxygen increases the mitochondrial function that gives you the energy to actually detoxify. But if you don't have enough hydroxide anions to pull it out, so you see how the pieces work together?
Yeah. So I'm about 120 pounds. How much water should I be drinking?
About 120 ounces.
Yeah, and that's what I'm drinking, but sometimes I don't feel like it's enough.
Try
Are you
getting enough salts.
You don't use salt at all.
I don't drink salt at all because I feel that it retains the water. I do do Himalayan salt.
Yeah, I mean, you're using, like, have you ever noticed that salt is bad for you as a human, and yet we put salt licks out in the pasture for all of our cattle?
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, salt's not isn't the culprit if you have good salt. Bad salt is the culprit. That's been stripped down and loaded with iodine. Not saying you don't need iodine. I'm saying, like, Himalayan salt has like 64 different minerals. We have this new Hawaiian salt that my wife got, and it's got this black rock salt in it. It kind of looks like, babe, are there bugs in the salt? Like, no, that's the black Hawaiian salt, and it's like amazing. But you have to get your electrolyte balanced to manage the fibromyalgia to make the systems work.
Okay, because they were saying the Himalayan, because of the thyroid, that helps the iodine intake too.
Yep.
Okay, so I should be taking more of that then, and I haven't.
And if you take do you take hot baths to cool up to?
I just
showers,
hot shower in Anespa.
You do have an Anespa, good. Step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Actually soaking in a hot bath with an Anespa, that's why it makes a huge difference. I'm a competitive athlete from way back, and I used to be so sore I was miserable. On an UConn standpoint, I personally don't do much with the capsules, but I love the tea. The more tea I drink, the better I feel from all my bumps, bruises. The capsules are really good. I've started to take them now that I have an inventory of them, but I was really good at drinking the tea. And
okay, because I'm like in that fight to flight mode with sometimes in that. So that's good info. Thank you.
Yep. So yeah, so we've got, and I already put the stuff out for the 5G and the EMF. If you're interested in a whole house filtration system, we're getting ready to place an order. It's not an affiliate thing. It's not a thing. We've started our own company where we're importing them into the US because they restructure the water and it comes from Holland. They're manufactured. It's freaking amazing. So normally my water would come in and it come out of my K8 at like 652 on a 9.5. I'll get like 100 to 200 points higher on ORP.
Wow.
When I've restructured the water before it gets to my Kangen machine. And then we have bottle toppers that you can actually put on your bottle that will rejuice it. So like if you've got water, whatever. So we bought the house unit, we bought bottles for our kids. We now have the small unit for our pool, or actually it's our hot tub. And yeah, it's just amazing. So we
yeah,
do all that stuff.
put the information about that, Doc, in the chat so that so that anybody that wants to, because I've had a lot of people ask me about, some kind of a whole house unit.
Oh, this is actually the whole house unit. It's an inline 2-inch pipe.
Wow.
And
That's all it is. Wow.
no, it's not all it is. It's got specials, titanium turbinators. It's got a titanium impregnated ring that creates this thing. Actually, if you start to study Bovis, B-O-V-I-S factor, it's coming out of Holland, which has the best water in the world. Bovis factor is kind of like, it was very woo-woo, so the science is now just catching up with the woo-woo side of it. But a Bovis factor, a healthy person has 6,000 to 8,000 Bovis rating. If they go below 2,000, they'll be dead within 24 to 48 hours. The water supply globally used to be like 100,000 Bovis, and now it's in the low teens. The water coming out of that unit right there is 153,000 Bovis.
Interesting.
And that's kind of like the intracellular life force energy, whatever you want to call it, that frequency modulation.
Interestingly enough, Doc, I'm pretty lucky where I live. I live right next to the mountains here in Sandy, Utah, and we have our own little water department, and we don't put any chlorine, no fluoride, no chemicals of any kind. The water comes off of the mountains up there right by us, and it goes down into a deep well aquifer, and then it gets pumped up into our houses. And I average with my K8, I average like a negative about 860 on my 9.5, and on my 11.5 I average like around a 960, 950.
Make sure you get your water tested regularly though, because of all the fracking out west. We've had a lot of problem with people on wells having outgassing. I tell everybody on a well, have it tested every 6 months. I had a friend that was up in the North Carolina mountains, and his pH was like 8.7. And I went back like 2 months later, and we couldn't get it above 2.0. It wouldn't even hold the charge.
Yeah, I test my water all the time. I mean, the only thing I can do it with is my ORP meter and my pH drops. But that.
Oh,
No. I mean, like, send it off to a local college and have them.
they
Like,
just have on hold
information.
in the morning and surgery in the afternoon. So
I know that our water company, they're really proud of their water. They like to take it all over the world and put it in competitions and things like that.
Sweet.
But I know that most people don't get the kind of water into their house that I do.
No.
But I know most people.
Ironically, we have really good water. And I live right at the conflux of the Chestatee and the Chattahoochee. My water's amazing. That shoreline that I can see. Come on, catch up. Right there,
Uh-huh.
their water has arsenic.
Interesting.
Yep.
Sure is a fascinating subject, though, water. I always thought water was just water. I thought this was the stupidest thing in the world, and when my buddy.
I used to think Scotch was Scotch until I discovered aged single malt.
With 9.5 ice cubes.
All righty. Do you want to just copy the links that I put in there? Oh, here. This is our main. That's the main website. And then creating wealth. So I have an automated system that manages my team if they're not healthcare providers. Clint and Christy are part of the Freedom Era. We flew out there. They teach you all your mindset, your your personal growth, how to build a business, how to manage your team, masterminding, money mastery. I partnered with them like 2 years ago, and so they handle everything on the water side. They even do coaching calls. They've got professional closers. And if you're in the doctor's manual and you want to build in the online space, I actually have you just go to Creating Wealth with Dr. Michael, and that aligns with Christy's stuff. It's a monthly fee. You get a referral, but it's the personal growth side of it's just unreal.
Yeah, I love everything that you're doing, Doc. I sure appreciate you coming in here today and blessing our show.
I'm really glad to be here. So if I can help, let me know. Go check out the doctor's manual. It'll answer all your science questions for you. Just say that you're with JJ, and I'll follow through, and I'll make sure that you get your one-on-one consulting.
Yeah, if
And
any,
I'll do a 25-minute private coaching call for you. Won't even charge you the $1,000 for it.
bless your heart, Doc.
Nice.
Awesome.
We appreciate that.
So before
Well-
we head out of here, if nobody has any more questions or whatever, before we leave, I'd love to, if you don't mind, I'd love to give us a prayer before we head out for our day and our weekend, and continue on our mission of changing the world, because we are the Kong family. We're here to change the world. And Sean, how is it that we're doing that again?
1 glass of hydrogen-rich, oxygen-saturated, supremely hydrating, 9.5 at a time. Thank you kindly.
Amen, brother. And 1 lightning bolt in the box, 1 incredible, special, amazing guest, and one amazing family at a time. And so yeah, that's what we're here doing in the Kong family. Everybody that has a Kong machine is part of the Kong family, whether they like it or not. And and so we're just grateful to have people like Dr. Michael out there teaching us and helping us understand what's going on, and
I think it's just Dr.
each other's. And Doc, what you've put together is phenomenal. I'm definitely going to get the system. I gotta buy that. Well, it's $497 and become part of that and share that with people, and hopefully get other people to purchase it as well.
If you refer people over to it, there is a commission. You get $50 per referral for anybody that you put into that buys the manual and lists your name.
In my opinion, brother, anybody that doesn't buy this is freaking nuts. I mean, they might not have.
Well, there's people that build just for the business, but if you're interested in the healthcare side of it.
Well, the thing is all these doctors, they don't understand this stuff, and most doctors are completely against this. They're just like I was. Water's water, stupid.
Hey, I don't mean to be rude. I actually have to jump on. I was supposed to be on another call at 12:15.
Ooh.
Okay, well, let me give a prayer real quick here before you leave, Doc, and you can get on out of here. Our Father in heaven, I want to thank you so much for another amazing, incredible day. I want to thank you so much for the blessing of Dr. Michael and having him here today. As you know, Lord, he's definitely been an incredible influence on my life and many other people's lives. And I want to ask that you will bless him and take care of him so that he can continue to do the amazing work that he's doing. And I want to ask that you will help people that are out there struggling and scared, that they can get rid of their fear and get rid of their struggles and start to understand what they can do to protect themselves. And I hope that you will help this show, this episode in particular, to be an eye opener and a heart opener and a mind opener for people. And of course, Lord, I've got to ask for you to take care of my brother Rodgar. He's going to be out there today once again, delivering the goods. He's going to be out there dodging them damn Anasazi, and you need to please take care of him so he can make it home tonight. Take care of everybody that's been here. Help us to share this special gift that you and Mr. Oshiro have given to us. And I ask that you will help people to look closely at what Dr. Michael is doing, the platforms that he's put together, and understand how these things can drastically improve their lives and the lives of those around them. And I ask all of this stuff humbly in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, my Savior, our Savior. Amen.
Rock and roll, Hoochie Coo. Nice work. Dr. Michael, you rock, bud. Appreciate you dialing in with us
Gotta vote.
finally. Yeah, giddy up.
Don't forget your hugs and your hoodie-oos! All right, kids, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. I'll get the recording up here ASAP. And love you guys. Make it a great day. Get out there, change the world, starting with your own.